Berserk, One Piece, these stories have hundreds of chapters to tell their stories and flesh out the world and its characters, but even then, the setup for some of these stories seem to take a lifetime. Granted, the payoff too is just as great as the setup. What I'm really trying to say here is that it's pretty rare to find a story that can do what the greats take decades to do in a short time frame. Not only in a short time frame, but with an amazing attention to detail of the world and the characters. But what if I told you a story like that exists in just about 24 bloody chapters too? Remember Sui Ishida, the author of Tokyo Ghoul? That man did it again. And by doing it again, I mean having the MC being eaten by his own date. Like what? Clearly my man Ishida has had some problems with some women before. But seriously, this man was able to have a damn near perfect 24 chapter run with Choujin X. Now, Choujin X is a story about these two characters, Tokyo and Azuma, who are basically childhood friends, and ever since they were kids, they always dreamed about fighting crime and being pillars of justice in a world that's run and dominated by Choujins. Choujins are individuals who gain supernatural powers based on the features that define their personality and characters. So one day, after dealing with one of the thugs in that neighborhood, they end up getting themselves involved into the world of Choujins, and that's where the story begins for our two characters. First, let's start with the art. As someone who's only watched the anime of Tokyo Ghoul, I always heard that besides the manga just being a better adaptation in terms of the story is something that the Tokyo Ghoul community has always praised in the manga community as being one of the very best. While that may be a wild statement, the art is beautiful, but rough. In a way, for a world like Choujin X, it works to its benefit in terms of the character designs, the world building of the Choujin powers, and the fight scenes. That's why we end up getting panels that look like this, where all you have on a page is a character and an empty background. Just a few words is all you need because, like they say, a picture alone can paint 1,000 words. This is only possible because Choujin X is a monthly release, so it's easier to pour more time into some 30-odd something pages. And you won't see this kind of quality being maintained on a weekly basis in a weekly Shonen Jump manga of all things. And with this, I'm now hyped up to pick up Tokyo Ghoul and see what the mad lad Ishida can do with his pen. But let's get to the characters. Tokyo is an introverted, clumsy, and a kind character. Azuma, on the other hand, is smart, physically gifted, and supremely confident. These guys are like complete opposites, and the way the story plays around with that friendship, especially the way it tackles the perspective that each one of them has on that relationship, is one of its selling points, because we as the audience can actually connect to that friendship, making it feel real and not just a random relationship stated by the author. And if he can nail the story from here on out, we could be looking at one of the best duos in all of anime and manga. The potential is there to rival dynamic duos like Tenma and Johan, maybe even Griffith and Guts. As for the side characters, every single character that's been introduced in the story has had a role to play of some kind. Characters like Eli are a fresh breath of air because her goals and personalities are just like your everyday person. She dreams of going back home and starting up a farm, getting married. Simple things that everyone in life wants. And not these kids who dream of stopping guys who can blow entire planes into smithereens and turn into snakes that can literally swallow you whole. The antagonistic forces that were introduced were pretty great too, as they posed a threat to the goals and livelihood of our characters, but you can tell they were just underlings. Not small fry, but in terms of ideologies and grand goals for the endgame of the story, we have not seen that yet. basically implying that these guys are simply working under some higher power. But the ending of one of the last chapters gave us one of the possible goals for the villains. But we need more information to paint a clearer picture, to be honest. As for the world building, the world that Sui Ishida has created pretty much takes place in a modern day Japan. The world definitely feels lived in, and you can see it in situations where Ishida has drawn a group of people or landmarks. Buildings where the less unfortunate people live look like shit. Train stations or public areas feel alive and buzzing with life and personality. But I wouldn't say that it's amazing like in One Piece. No, it's got 24 chapters. Let's chill. But what I am saying is, with the time period the world is in, Ishida does nail the job of portraying the modern world that we are also currently living in. Before I forget about it, the power system is fucking amazing, bro. The way that a Choujin gets their powers is basically in two ways. It can be organically, where it just happens randomly, or another way is through artificial means like using medicinal injections trigger the activation of your powers. As for what the powers will be is entirely based on either your likes, the mental image you have of yourself. It really feels like the possibilities are endless, but one common denominator is that it's somewhat related to your personality and entire character. This has increased my anticipation for future fights, because what do you mean that this character has a power that allows him to place you in a mental genjutsu? Am I watching Naruto and basically show you your worst nightmares? The flexibility that could come from this power system feels like JoJo. You know, the weirdness and randomness of stands made the fights in JoJo very unpredictable and super fun. Lastly, the themes of friendship, justice, and jealousy absolutely shine through each chapter of the manga, and the setup for these themes are very noticeable in the beginning. And what I love is how these very themes will still act as the backbone of the story moving forward. We get to see how friendships between two people from opposite worlds work. And although this may not be true like all the time, seeing the way Ishida is approaching it in the setting, to be specific, is just beautiful. And I'm extremely excited to see where this could go, because if he can somehow pull it off, we could have another Tokyo Ghoul. In fact, scratch that, we could have a masterpiece. Maybe he can run us off with making it a perfect series. Anyways, I'm the Masquerading Menace, and peace.